Welcome back to Fluent English Journey, the channel where we explore language learning and personal growth step by step. Every episode, we uncover ideas that help you grow, not just in English, but in life. Today, we are going to talk about something that affects all of us, the idea of impossible. You have probably heard someone say something is impossible, or maybe you have even said it yourself. But what if I told you that impossible is often just a word in our minds? It is a limit we place on ourselves, not something written in the rules of the universe. Think about it. Many of the things we think we cannot do are not truly impossible. They are just beliefs we have accepted without question. Sometimes society, our families, or even our past experiences make us believe that certain things are too difficult or out of reach. But these limits are not real. They are mental barriers we create. Let's pause for a moment and imagine something. What if the things you have always thought were impossible in your life are actually just illusions? What if you could see past those illusions and try anyway? Suddenly, things that seemed far away or unreachable might become possible. The opportunities could be endless. Now, I am not saying that we can do anything without effort. Some things are truly difficult. They take time, patience, hard work, and learning. For example, we cannot fly without a plane, and we cannot breathe underwater without training or tools. But that is different from using the word impossible to stop yourself before even trying. Have you ever noticed that small voice in your head that says, "You can't do this. It's too hard for you. You're not qualified"? If we listen to this voice too much, we limit ourselves. We stop before we even begin. We miss chances, avoid challenges, and stay in our comfort zones. But what if that voice is wrong? What if it is telling you impossible when it is actually possible with effort and persistence? Think about the opportunities you have missed in life. How many times have you said, "No, that's impossible," without trying? How many times have you stayed in the safe zone because stepping forward felt too scary? Is it really impossible, or did we just decide it was impossible? In this episode, I want to invite you to question the word impossible. Stop seeing it as a hard stop. See it instead as a chance to rethink your beliefs. Impossible is just a word, a label we put on things we don't understand or feel afraid of. But words can change. You can choose new labels. You can see impossible as something to explore rather than something to fear. Imagine opening a door that says, "Impossible." Instead of walking away, you step inside and look around. Who knows what you might find? Maybe new skills, new confidence, or even new opportunities. We will explore how our beliefs shape our reality, how resilience can turn failures into lessons, and how to face the mental blocks that stop us. By the end of this episode, I hope you start seeing impossible in a new way, not as a wall, but as a door to something bigger. Let's also think about what impossible really means. Most of us use it casually. "That's impossible," or "I can't do that." But have you ever stopped to ask, what does impossible really mean? Where does this idea come from? How does it affect the way we think, act, and live our lives? In this episode, we will take a deep look at impossible, step by step, and explore how you can change your perspective. We will learn that what seems impossible today can become possible tomorrow, with the right mindset, effort, and belief. So, are you ready? Let's start this journey together and discover that impossible might just be an illusion. Let's start by looking at the word itself, impossible. If we break it down, it has two parts. Im means not, and possible means able to be done. So, at the simplest level, impossible means something that cannot be done. But pause and think about this. How often do we really face something that is truly impossible? Are there things that are absolutely beyond our reach, or do we just call them impossible because they are hard, scary, or unfamiliar? Language is very powerful. The words we use shape the way we see the world. When we say, "I can't do this," or "it's impossible," we are not just describing the situation, we are shaping our mind. Saying impossible can actually close the door on opportunities, solutions, and growth, often before we even try. Many times, impossible is more about our mental state than reality. How often have you thought something was impossible, only to later find that, with the right knowledge, skills, or mindset, it was possible after all? The real challenge is not always the task itself, but how we approach it. You might have heard expressions like, "It's all in your head," "It's just a mental block." These phrases show us that what feels impossible is often inside our mind, not outside in the world. If we believe something is impossible, our mind stops us from finding solutions. It's like trying to walk through thick fog. You cannot see clearly, so it seems like there's no way forward. But once you step out of the fog, the path becomes clear, and what seemed impossible becomes possible. This is what happens with mental blocks. A mental block is when our own thoughts limit us, usually without us realizing it. We start thinking, "This is too difficult. It's too risky. I can't do it." These thoughts make the task seem bigger and scarier than it really is. They create invisible barriers that stop us from exploring possibilities, trying new things, or even taking the first step toward our goals. But what if these barriers are not real? What if the only thing standing between us and success is the way we think? You might have heard the saying, "The only limits are the ones you set for yourself." It's true. Often, the boundaries we see are not fixed. If we change how we think, challenge our assumptions, and step outside what we believe is possible, we can see opportunities instead of obstacles. Language helps with this too. Notice how the words we use shape our mindset. Saying impossible can feel like giving up before we even try. But if we say, "This is difficult, but I can work through it," we are already moving toward a growth mindset. Words can open doors or close them. Using language that encourages possibility helps our mind become more resilient and creative. Now, let's look at some examples. Think about amazing things humans have achieved: landing on the moon, curing diseases, creating technology that seemed like science fiction. All of these were once called impossible. Yet, people did not accept that label. They challenged their own mental blocks, worked hard, and stretched the limits of what was thought achievable. The word impossible was not a fact, it was a challenge to overcome. Here's another way to think about it. Have you ever had a eureka moment, a moment when a problem that seemed impossible suddenly became clear, and the solution felt so simple in hindsight? That moment usually happens because of a shift in perspective. The problem itself wasn't truly impossible. It was waiting for the right way of thinking, the right approach, or a little persistence to make it solvable. This is important to understand. When we say something is impossible, we should ask ourselves, what do we really mean? Are we talking about something that cannot be done, or are we talking about something that is difficult, unfamiliar, or uncomfortable? Most of the time, what we call impossible is simply something we haven't yet figured out how to tackle. The word impossible can actually serve as a signal to pause and rethink. It's not the end of the road. It can be the beginning of a new path. This new path might be harder, it might feel uncertain, but it is not impossible to walk. In the end, impossible is just a concept, a word. It only has power if we let it. If we look closely, we may see that it is not a universal truth. Instead, it is often a reflection of our own thoughts, beliefs, and limitations. Once we start questioning whether something labeled impossible is really so, we open ourselves to new possibilities. We begin to see that what once seemed out of reach can actually be achieved with the right mindset and effort. So next time you face something that feels impossible, pause and ask yourself, is it truly impossible? Or is it waiting for a shift in perspective, a new approach, or a change in mindset? The answer may surprise you. The role of beliefs in shaping reality. Have you ever thought about how much your beliefs shape your life? Our beliefs, whether we realize it or not, act like lenses through which we see the world. They influence our daily decisions, our goals, and even how we define success. Some beliefs are helpful. They motivate us, guide us, and give us direction. But others can hold us back, keeping us stuck in patterns that limit what we can achieve. Let's break this down. Conscious beliefs. These are beliefs we are fully aware of. For example, hard work leads to success. Honesty is the best policy. These beliefs influence our choices in ways we can clearly recognize. Unconscious beliefs. These operate in the background. We may not even realize we have them. For example, I'm not good at math. I'll never be a leader. These beliefs quietly shape our actions and decisions without any real proof that they are true. The problem with unconscious beliefs is that many of them are limiting. They don't reflect reality. They are patterns of thinking shaped by past experiences or societal expectations. Despite being untrue, these beliefs can be very powerful. Once they take hold, they create a self-reinforcing cycle. For example, if you believe you're not good at something, you may avoid trying it. Because you avoid it, you don't gain experience or improve, which then reinforces the belief that you can't do it. Over time, this cycle can trap you in a mindset that limits your potential, often without you even noticing. Now, think about a time when you broke free from a limiting belief. Maybe you once thought you could never run a marathon. But after months of training, you crossed the finish line. Or perhaps you doubted your leadership abilities, yet you were promoted and succeeded in your new role. These moments, when we overcome self-imposed limits, can be truly life-changing. The important thing to realize is that the task itself wasn't impossible. It was your belief in your own limitations that stopped you from even trying. Once you challenged that belief, everything changed. This shows the power of belief in shaping reality. Beliefs can either empower us or hold us back, depending on their nature. Empowering beliefs push us forward, give us confidence, and inspire action. For example, believing that every challenge is an opportunity to grow helps us face difficulties with optimism. This belief opens doors, encourages resilience, and drives success. Limiting beliefs hold us back. Thoughts like, I'm not good enough, I'll never succeed, or it's too late for me create self-doubt, close doors, and prevent us from taking the necessary steps to grow. Another important factor is cognitive biases. These are mental shortcuts our brains use to process information quickly, but sometimes they make us think irrationally and reinforce limiting beliefs. For example, confirmation bias. We focus only on information that confirms what we already believe. If you think, I'm not good at public speaking. You might remember only the times you stumbled during a presentation and forget the moments when you spoke clearly and confidently. This strengthens your limiting belief. Self-serving bias. We attribute our successes to luck or timing, but blame our failures on our own inadequacy. This can create a cycle of low self-esteem and make us feel like past failures define our future, even if they were caused by things beyond our control. These biases can trap us in negative thinking loops, preventing us from seeing opportunities for growth. So, how do we break free from these patterns? The first step is awareness. You must recognize that many of your beliefs are not absolute truths. They are mental constructs influenced by past experiences and external factors. Once you become aware of your limiting beliefs, you can start to challenge them. Ask yourself, why do I believe this? Is this belief helping me or holding me back? Once you identify limiting beliefs, you can begin to change your mindset. This doesn't mean forcing yourself to believe something positive just for the sake of it. It means shifting your focus toward more empowering thoughts. For example, if you think, I'm not good enough for this, challenge it. What evidence do I have that supports this belief? What if I can do this? With practice and persistence, phrases like change your mindset become more than motivational talk. They become actionable steps toward growth. Changing your mindset doesn't happen overnight, but with consistent effort, you can start to break free from self-imposed limitations. Instead of thinking, I can't, ask, how can I? Instead of saying, it's impossible, ask, what do I need to learn to make this possible? Take the example of someone who has always believed they are not creative. Maybe a few failed attempts at artistic projects led them to think creativity isn't for them. But what if they stopped holding on to that limiting belief and started seeing creativity as a skill that can be developed? By changing their mindset, they open themselves to new possibilities, challenges, and growth. The journey to breaking free from limiting beliefs is often full of trial and error. You might face setbacks along the way, but each step forward helps you strengthen your mindset, build resilience, and expand your potential. Even if you make mistakes or face setbacks along the way, it doesn't mean your beliefs are true. It simply means you are learning and growing. Remember, even the most successful people have experienced doubt, fear, and self-limiting beliefs. What sets them apart is not that they never had these thoughts, but that they chose not to be controlled by them. Instead of letting limiting beliefs dictate their actions, they took action despite those beliefs. So, what does this mean for you? It means that the next time you face a challenge, you have the power to choose your approach. You can either hold on to old beliefs that say, I can't or it's too hard, or choose to break free from them and adopt a new belief that empowers you. The key is to understand that your beliefs are not fixed. They are flexible, changeable, and within your control. As you start changing your beliefs, you will begin to see the world differently, and that will change your experience of life. The power of resilience, bouncing back from setbacks. We've all faced setbacks, haven't we? It could be a personal failure, a missed opportunity, or a goal that feels just out of reach. At times, life can feel like a long series of obstacles. In those moments, it's easy to believe the path forward is blocked, maybe even impossible. But here's the truth: setbacks are normal and inevitable. The key to overcoming them is not avoiding failure, but developing resilience. So, what is resilience? In simple terms, resilience is the ability to bounce back from adversity. It's the skill of recovering quickly from challenges, failures, or difficult situations, and continuing to move forward. Resilience is not about never facing problems. It's about how we handle them. It's about finding the strength to keep going and seeing setbacks as opportunities for growth rather than barriers. Resilience is a skill. Resilience is not something only a few people are born with. It's a skill we can develop and strengthen over time. Think of it as a mental and emotional muscle. The more we practice resilience by facing adversity, learning from failure, and persevering, the stronger it becomes. Consider a time when you faced a major setback. Maybe you didn't get a job you wanted, or a personal project didn't go as planned. At first, it probably felt devastating. You might have doubted yourself, questioned your abilities, or wondered if it was worth trying again. But over time, by reflecting on what happened, learning from the experience, and finding the courage to continue, you grew stronger. That process, moving past disappointment, learning from failure, and persisting, is the essence of resilience. Persistence is key. Setbacks can feel overwhelming. They can shake your confidence and make you wonder if it's worth the effort. But one of the most powerful parts of resilience is persistence. Persistence means continuing to show up, even when the road ahead seems difficult. For example, the writer J.K. Rowling faced rejection after rejection before Harry Potter was published. She kept going not because she knew she would succeed, but because she understood that failure is part of the process. The key isn't avoiding failure, it's embracing it as a chance to learn, improve, and grow. This mindset separates those who give up from those who persevere. Resilience isn't about never failing. It's about how we react to failure. When we learn to embrace failure as a natural part of the journey, we stop fearing it. Instead, we start using it as fuel for our next attempt. Resilient people don't see failure as the end. They see it as a stepping stone towards success. With this mindset, they can overcome what seems impossible. Take a moment and think about your own experiences. When was the last time you faced a setback? How did you react? Did you give up immediately, or did you push through? More importantly, what did you learn from the experience? Maybe you realized you needed a new skill, or that your original plan wasn't the best approach. Perhaps you discovered you were capable of more than you thought, or that you simply needed to adjust your expectations. The truth is, the most successful people don't succeed because they never fail. They succeed because they learn how to bounce back stronger each time. This is where the idea of grit comes in. Grit is a mix of passion and perseverance for long-term goals. People with grit don't quit easily. They don't let failure define them. Instead, they use it as an opportunity to dig deeper, refine their strategies, and come back stronger. The key word here is perseverance, the ability to keep moving forward, step by step, even when things are hard or uncertain. But resilience isn't just about determination. It's also about how we view challenges. Instead of seeing them as threats, resilient people learn to see them as opportunities for growth. This shift in perspective is powerful because it changes the way we approach life's difficulties. Instead of feeling defeated, we start to see challenges as chances to improve, learn, and build the strength we need to succeed. This mindset is crucial when facing situations that seem impossible because it allows us to keep going even when we don't have all the answers. Example: Thomas Edison. Think about Thomas Edison, the inventor of the light bulb. He is famous for saying, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." Edison faced countless setbacks, but he never gave up. Each failure helped him refine his approach. His resilience allowed him to keep pursuing his vision, and eventually he succeeded. Edison's story teaches us an important lesson. Setbacks are not failures. They are opportunities to learn, adjust, and grow. Embracing discomfort. Another key part of resilience is embracing discomfort. Often, when we face obstacles, our natural instinct is to avoid discomfort. We want to stay in our comfort zone, where everything feels safe and familiar. But growth happens outside the comfort zone. Resilience means getting comfortable with discomfort. It's about understanding that real growth doesn't come from easy experiences, but from facing challenges head-on. By embracing discomfort, we build the mental and emotional strength needed to face even bigger challenges in the future. In many ways, resilience is the ability to go beyond what seems impossible. It's what allows ordinary people to achieve extraordinary things, step by step, even when the odds seem stacked against them. When we face setbacks, our first reaction is often to believe that the goal is no longer attainable or that the challenge is too big. But resilience teaches us that these feelings are temporary. Resilience shows us that we can overcome obstacles if we stay committed, keep learning, and keep moving forward. It's not about avoiding challenges. It's about rising to meet them and knowing that each obstacle we face makes us stronger. So the next time you face a setback, remember, resilience is a skill you can develop. It's not about avoiding failure. It's about learning from it, persevering, and believing that what seems impossible can be overcome. By embracing failure as part of the journey, each challenge brings you one step closer to success. With resilience, you can bounce back stronger and transcend what once seemed impossible. Transformation, turning impossible into opportunity. We've all had moments when something felt completely out of reach, when the word impossible seemed to describe the situation perfectly. Maybe it was a goal that felt too far away, a dream that felt too big, or a challenge that made you feel small. But what if impossible was not the end of the story, but the beginning of transformation? What if, instead of seeing impossible as a barrier, we saw it as an invitation to rewrite the story, to turn difficulty into opportunity? At the heart of transformation is a shift in perspective. It's the ability to look at a challenge or failure and see it not as a roadblock, but as a chance to grow, adapt, and evolve. This shift often sparks breakthroughs personally and sometimes even on a larger scale. When we change our mindset, we open ourselves to new possibilities, turning what once seemed impossible into something achievable, even life-changing. Personal transformation. Think about personal transformation. Many people have stories of overcoming obstacles that once seemed insurmountable, transforming their lives in ways they never thought possible. For example, imagine someone struggling with self-doubt and low self-esteem. For years, they may have believed they would never speak confidently in public. Then, something changes. They begin to see failure as part of the process, not a reflection of their worth. Perhaps they take a small step, attending a public speaking workshop or practicing in front of a mirror. Gradually, their confidence grows, and what once seemed impossible, speaking in front of an audience with conviction, becomes reality. This example shows how transformation works. It's not about jumping instantly to the goal. It's about taking small, deliberate steps that lead to bigger changes. It's about moving from doubt to belief, from fear to action. Through this process, the impossible fades, replaced by a sense of achievement and growth. Collective transformation. Personal transformation often connects to larger societal shifts. Many great changes in history began with individuals challenging the status quo and refusing to accept what seemed impossible. For instance, the women's rights movement or the fight for racial equality didn't happen overnight. They began with small acts of courage, as people challenged long-held beliefs and insisted that what society called impossible was actually achievable. These movements didn't just impact the individuals involved. They transformed entire cultures, breaking barriers and creating opportunities for future generations. One of the most powerful aspects of societal transformation is how it redefines what's possible. Take the example of technology. A century ago, the idea of humans flying was considered completely impossible. Yet the Wright brothers changed that. Today, we have technologies that let us communicate instantly across the globe, explore space, and even study the universe itself. The journey from what once seemed impossible to what is now everyday life shows the extraordinary power of transformation. In both personal and societal contexts, the key to transformation is embracing difficulty as part of the process. It's easy to look at challenges and assume they are signs that something cannot be done. It's tempting to see a wall and think it's insurmountable. But transformation requires us to see the wall not as the end, but as the beginning of a new approach. It's about asking, how can I work with this? How can I find a way through, over, or around it? Instead of avoiding failure, transformation asks us to see failure as a necessary step toward a solution. Think about how failure is often portrayed in the media. We see people achieving success, but we rarely see the struggles and setbacks behind it. Rarely do we see the failures that, in hindsight, become stepping stones. Yet these struggles are essential. It's during difficult moments that we discover resilience, creativity, and innovation. Some of the most transformative breakthroughs in history, like the invention of the telephone or the discovery of penicillin, came from failures that led to unexpected insights. Had the inventors given up at their first setbacks, the world would be very different today. The metaphor of turning a corner fits perfectly here. Sometimes, when we are caught in difficulty, it feels like we're stuck in a dead end. But transformation is about realizing that if we keep moving forward, eventually we reach a point where the path opens up. That moment of clarity feels like a breath of fresh air. The weight of the impossible is lifted, and we can move forward with renewed purpose. One of the most inspiring things about transformation is that it allows us to rewrite the story of our lives. We all carry a narrative in our minds about who we are and what we can do. Often, this story is shaped by past experiences, societal expectations, and our own doubts. But transformation is about challenging that story. It's about recognizing that the story we've been telling ourselves isn't the only story. We have the power to change it. This shift allows us to move beyond the limits we've set for ourselves and step into a new version of who we are, one not constrained by the past. Imagine standing at the foot of a mountain. From where you are, it seems impossible to climb. The peak is too high, the slope too steep, the rocks too jagged. But what if you saw the mountain not as an obstacle, but as an opportunity for growth? What if the climb was not a challenge, but a way to discover new strengths within yourself? As you begin the ascent, each step may feel difficult. But with every step, you are also moving closer to a new perspective, one where the impossible begins to look possible. And when you finally reach the summit, you realize something powerful. Not only did you climb the mountain, but you also discovered a new sense of possibility within yourself. What once seemed impossible has become a triumph. This is the power of transformation, the ability to take what feels impossible and turn it into an opportunity for growth, reinvention, and new possibilities. Whether on a personal level, like overcoming self-doubt, or on a societal level, like breaking down barriers to equality, transformation allows us to see beyond the impossible and create something new. It's the process of moving from what we thought we couldn't do to realizing we can achieve things we never imagined. The inner dialogue, what's holding you back? Take a moment and think about the last time you faced a challenge at work, in a personal relationship, or in a creative project. What did the conversation in your mind sound like? Was it supportive? Did you encourage yourself to keep going? Or did you hear a voice that said, "Stop. This is too hard. You're not good enough"? This is your inner dialogue or self-talk, the constant conversation we have with ourselves. It's the voice in our heads that assesses, critiques, and judges our actions, choices, and potential. More often than not, that voice isn't kind. It can be filled with doubt, negativity, and fear, limiting our actions without us even realizing it. Many of us are our own worst critics, using words internally that we would never say to a friend. The truth is, our inner voice has a profound impact on how we experience the world and react to challenges. Our thoughts shape our emotions, and our emotions guide our actions. When negative or limiting thoughts dominate, they can create a self-fulfilling prophecy. For example, constantly thinking, "I'm not good enough," or "I'll never succeed," can influence the decisions we make, the risks we take or avoid, and how we approach opportunities. Over time, these thoughts can become mental blocks that prevent us from reaching our full potential. In many cases, our internal narrative can hold us back more than any external obstacle ever could. But here's the interesting part. This inner dialogue isn't necessarily true. It's often based on patterns, fears, and biases that may not reflect reality. One common pattern is negativity bias, the tendency to focus on the negative parts of a situation while ignoring the positive. This bias was once a survival mechanism, helping our ancestors avoid danger. Today, however, when we're not facing life-threatening threats every day, this bias can work against us. It makes us focus on possible failure, rejection, or criticism, rather than seeing success, growth, and opportunity. Think about it. When you experience a setback or make a mistake, how do you respond? Often, our minds focus on the negative side of the situation. We beat ourselves up, replay the failure over and over in our heads, and start to believe it defines who we are. But here's the truth. One failure does not define you or your abilities. It's just part of the process, a step toward growth. However, if your inner dialogue is dominated by negativity, it's easy to get stuck in a cycle of self-criticism. You may start seeing every challenge as proof of your inadequacy instead of as an opportunity to learn and improve. Here's a simple exercise to become more aware of your inner dialogue. The next time you face a challenge, listen to your thoughts. Are they encouraging? Do they push you to keep going, try again, or learn from mistakes? Or do they tell you that you're not good enough, that it's too late, or that it's not worth trying? Pay attention to the tone of your thoughts. Are they gentle and supportive, or harsh and critical? This awareness is the first step in understanding the power your inner voice has over your actions. Now, imagine changing the narrative. What if, instead of listening to doubt, you challenged those negative thoughts? Is this really true? Is there another way to look at this? What would I say to a friend thinking this way? By reframing your thoughts, you create space for supportive and empowering self-talk. This doesn't mean ignoring difficulties or pretending everything is perfect. It means responding to challenges with curiosity and resilience, rather than fear or self-judgment. Let's look at an example. Imagine someone struggling with self-confidence. They want to apply for a new job or take on a big project, but their inner voice says, "What if I'm not good enough? What if they reject me? What if I fail?" These thoughts come from fear of failure, rejection, and the unknown. Now imagine this person recognizes these thoughts for what they are: fears, not facts. They ask themselves, "Why am I assuming failure? What evidence do I have that I won't succeed? What if I approach this with the mindset that I can handle it and that mistakes are just opportunities to learn?" This shift in thinking doesn't remove the challenge, but it changes the relationship to the challenge. It allows action to happen despite fear instead of being paralyzed by it. Over time, this new pattern of thinking becomes stronger, helping them tackle bigger challenges with confidence and courage. Here's the crucial point: our thoughts create our reality. If you constantly tell yourself that something is impossible, that you'll fail, or that you're not good enough, those thoughts shape how you act, what opportunities you pursue, and the risks you take. But when you change your inner dialogue and choose to think more positively, constructively, and compassionately, you open the door to a world of new possibilities. Suddenly, what once seemed impossible can become something worth trying. What used to hold you back no longer has power over you. Changing your inner dialogue doesn't happen overnight. It takes time, patience, and a willingness to challenge old thought patterns, but the results are powerful. When you become aware of how your thoughts are holding you back, you can begin to break free from them. You can stop being your own worst critic and start becoming your own greatest supporter. With this shift, the impossible begins to lose its grip. As you reflect on your inner dialogue, ask yourself, how often do I let negativity dictate my actions? How often do fear or self-doubt stop me from pursuing what I want? What would happen if I changed the conversation in my head? Imagine focusing not on what you can't do, but on what you can do, on the progress you've made, and the strengths you already have. The power of your inner dialogue is immense. By learning to nurture it, you can begin to transcend the impossible and create a life driven by possibility and confidence. Now let's talk about mindset, the lens through which we see our abilities and challenges. Have you ever faced a challenge and thought, I just can't do this, or I'm not good enough? Maybe you felt that failure defined your abilities or that your potential was fixed and unchangeable. These thoughts are tied to your mindset, the beliefs you hold about yourself and your ability to grow. Psychologist Carol Dweck introduced the concepts of growth mindset and fixed mindset, showing how our beliefs about our abilities shape how we approach challenges and learning. Fixed mindset. People with a fixed mindset believe their abilities, intelligence, and talents are fixed. They think we are born with certain skills and cannot change them. Challenges feel threatening. Mistakes are seen as proof of personal limitations. Effort may feel useless because improvement is thought to be impossible. For example, someone with a fixed mindset might think, I'm not good at this. No amount of effort will change that. When they fail, they see it as a reflection of who they are, not as a step in the learning process. This mindset often comes from a desire to protect self-image. Success should feel easy, and difficulty is interpreted as personal failure. People with a fixed mindset tend to focus on performance over learning, showing competence instead of embracing growth. This can lead to frustration, self-doubt, and avoidance of challenges, especially when tasks seem difficult or beyond their current abilities. Now let's contrast this with the growth mindset. People with a growth mindset believe that their abilities can be developed over time through effort, learning, and persistence. They see challenges not as threats, but as opportunities to grow. A person with a growth mindset approaches difficult tasks with the belief that although the task may be hard, they can learn from the experience and improve with practice. For them, failure is not a reflection of their abilities, it is a necessary step toward mastery. Failure becomes a teacher, not something to avoid or fear. One of the key aspects of the growth mindset is its focus on learning rather than performance. The emphasis is on the process of improvement, embracing challenges, learning from mistakes, and constantly striving to get better. For example, someone with a growth mindset facing a tough task might think, this is difficult, but I can learn from this. I'll try different strategies, seek feedback, and keep practicing until I improve. This approach naturally builds resilience, as people with a growth mindset are more likely to persist through adversity and see setbacks as stepping stones instead of roadblocks. The difference between fixed and growth mindsets becomes clear in how people handle feedback. Someone with a growth mindset sees constructive criticism as valuable information that helps them improve. In contrast, a person with a fixed mindset may take feedback personally, seeing it as evidence of their inability rather than a tool for growth. This is why people with a growth mindset are often more adaptable, curious, and open to change, navigating challenges with a sense of possibility rather than fear. Here's the important part. Mindset is not fixed. It can change, and we can consciously work to develop a growth mindset by challenging the beliefs that hold us back. This transformation doesn't happen overnight. It requires intentional effort and the willingness to reframe failure. Instead of avoiding failure, see it as an inevitable part of the learning process, an opportunity to reflect, adjust, and try again with new insights. Take Thomas Edison, for example. When asked about the thousands of attempts he made before inventing the electric light bulb, he famously said, "I have not failed. I've just found 10,000 ways that won't work." This is the essence of a growth mindset. Each setback is a lesson, not a limitation. By embracing this mindset, what once seemed impossible becomes a challenge we can overcome, a step toward progress, and ultimately, a path to transformation. Edison's relentless experimentation and his ability to embrace failure as part of the process were central to his success. His mindset allowed him to face challenges head-on and ultimately break new ground, despite the many obstacles along the way. This idea connects closely with deliberate practice, which emphasizes focused, consistent effort over time. People with a growth mindset understand that expertise is built incrementally. They don't expect to be immediately good at something. Instead, they welcome challenges as opportunities to push their boundaries, knowing that practice leads to improvement. This is why growth-minded individuals often embrace challenges others might avoid. They see them as chances to learn, develop, and expand their skills. So, how can you shift from a fixed mindset to a growth mindset, especially in the face of difficulties or setbacks? Here are some strategies. Recognize your mindset. The first step is awareness. When faced with a challenge, notice your thoughts. Are you saying, "I can't do this," or "this is too hard"? That may indicate a fixed mindset. On the other hand, thoughts like, "this is tough, but I can figure it out," or "I'll learn from this," reflect a growth mindset. Reframe failure. When setbacks occur, challenge the idea that it's a failure. Ask yourself, "What can I learn from this?" or "How can this teach me to improve?" By seeing failure as feedback rather than defeat, you open the door to growth. Embrace challenges. Growth-minded people actively seek challenges because they see them as opportunities to improve. Lean into them. Often, the greatest personal growth comes from the obstacles we initially want to avoid. Focus on effort over outcome. Shift your attention from results to the effort you invest and the progress you make. Celebrate action, experimentation, and learning rather than just success or avoiding failure. The bottom line: a growth mindset transforms the way you approach challenges and opportunities. It shifts your focus from limitations to possibilities, from fear of failure to excitement for learning. It empowers you to take risks, embrace new challenges, and continuously grow. With this mindset, the word impossible begins to lose its grip. What once felt unattainable becomes simply another stepping stone on your path of growth. Overcoming fear. the link between courage and possibility. Fear is something we all experience, yet we often don't fully acknowledge its influence. Fear is powerful. It can either hold us back or propel us forward. It is an instinctive response designed to protect us, keeping us safe from harm. But when fear dictates our decisions, it can prevent us from pursuing what seems impossible, keeping us inside our comfort zones. Think about a time you hesitated to take action, perhaps starting a new project, moving to a new city, or asking for help. That hesitation wasn't due to a lack of ability, it was fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of the unknown. Fear can make obstacles seem like walls, even when on the other side lie opportunities, growth, and fulfillment. Here's the key: fear itself isn't the problem. It's our response to fear that matters. Fear is neutral. It's just an emotional signal about perceived risk. What makes the difference is choosing how to respond. Do we let it stop us, or do we push through and act despite it? This is where courage comes in. Courage is often misunderstood as something inherent. You either have it or you don't. In reality, courage is like a muscle. It grows stronger the more you use it. Every time you confront uncertainty, take a risk, or face your fears rather than avoiding them, your courage expands. And with courage comes the possibility for transformation, allowing you to step into challenges that once felt impossible and discover new potential within yourself. In other words, courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the willingness to act in spite of it. Courage allows us to take risks, try new things, and keep moving forward even when the path ahead feels uncertain. The problem is that many of us let fear hold us back from even trying. We get trapped in a cycle of overthinking. What if I fail? What if I'm not good enough? What if it doesn't work out? These questions can create a paralyzing loop that prevents action. This is often where the gap between possibility and reality lies. When fear controls us, we stay within the boundaries of what's comfortable and familiar. True growth and transformation, however, happen outside those boundaries, when we embrace discomfort and uncertainty in pursuit of something greater. You've probably heard the phrase "step outside your comfort zone," but what does it really mean? The comfort zone is a psychological space where we feel safe, where life is predictable and manageable. Fear feels contained here, and we know what to expect. But the comfort zone can also be limiting. It's where we stay stuck in old patterns, avoid risks, and shy away from new experiences. Stepping outside the comfort zone means moving into the unknown, taking calculated risks that may make you feel vulnerable or anxious, but carry the potential for growth. It's about facing fear, acknowledging it, and choosing to act anyway. When you do this, you begin to break the chains that hold you in place. You begin to see that what once felt impossible was often just a fear-based barrier, one that disappears when you push through it. Think about the first time you tried something new, maybe learning a skill or tackling a challenging project. Initially, fear of failure or mistakes may have felt overwhelming. But once you pushed through, you likely discovered something powerful. You were capable of more than you thought. You gained valuable knowledge, regardless of success or failure, and most importantly, you built your courage muscle, making it easier to face the next challenge. Take a moment to reflect. What is something in your life you've been hesitating to do because of fear? What feels just out of reach because of the fear of failure, judgment, or the unknown? Now, imagine taking just one small step toward it today. It doesn't have to be a giant leap. Small steps create momentum. The goal isn't to eliminate fear completely. Fear is natural and often serves a purpose, helping us assess risk and stay alert. The challenge is not letting fear dictate your choices. When used wisely, Fear becomes a guide rather than a barrier. Courage, then, is the antidote to fear, the strength to act even without certainty, to step into the unknown with confidence in yourself and your ability to grow. There's a quote by Mark Twain that I love: "Courage is resistance to fear, mastery of fear, not absence of fear." This perfectly captures the essence of what we've been exploring. Courage isn't about being fearless. It's about moving forward despite fear. It's about mastering your fears rather than letting them master you. Every time you face fear with courage, you reinforce the belief that you can handle whatever comes your way. And with each experience, you grow stronger, more resilient, and more capable. If we look at the bigger picture, fear often stands in the way of the impossible. It convinces us that certain goals or dreams are beyond our reach, that we're not good enough, or that failure must be avoided at all costs. But fear is only a barrier when we allow it to be. When we develop the courage to face it head-on, to embrace discomfort and uncertainty, we begin to see that the impossible isn't as formidable as it first seemed. It's simply another challenge to overcome, another step on the path to personal growth and achievement. So, if you're ready to push through your fears and embrace the possibilities on the other side, start with a single step. It may feel scary, but it's through these moments of courage that we transform not only our circumstances, but also our beliefs about what we're capable of. And before long, you'll realize that the impossible was never truly impossible. It was just waiting for you to step up, face your fears, and take action. The word impossible is often a mental construct created by our fears, doubts, and limiting beliefs. Much of what we perceive as impossible is simply uncharted territory, unknowns that we have yet to explore. What if we viewed these challenges not as insurmountable obstacles, but as opportunities to expand our horizons, to grow, and to redefine what's possible? Throughout this journey, we've seen how our mindsets, beliefs, and fears shape our perception of what we can and can't do. By adopting a growth mindset, facing our fears, and cultivating resilience, we can transform the impossible into something within reach. Perhaps the most powerful idea is this: the only limits we encounter are often the ones we set for ourselves. Take a moment to reflect. What if the boundaries we perceive aren't physical barriers at all, but mental ones we've created? When we label something as impossible, it's usually a reflection of our perception, not an absolute truth. These limits aren't fixed. They are shaped by conditioning, past experiences, and societal expectations. And the beautiful truth is, we have the power to expand those boundaries. We can push the envelope, stretch our understanding of what's achievable, and break free from the mental constraints that hold us back. It's natural to feel doubt, to hesitate in the face of uncertainty, and to fear failure. But it's precisely in those moments of uncertainty that true growth happens. When confronted with what seems impossible, we're often standing at the edge of something new, an experience that has the power to challenge us, reshape us, and reveal strengths we didn't know we had. The key is to embrace uncertainty, to step forward with courage, and to see the impossible not as a wall, but as a gateway to transformation. Instead of waiting for perfect clarity before taking the first step, we can begin by simply taking one step at a time, trusting that each step forward brings us closer to something meaningful. Great achievements rarely happen overnight, and they rarely occur in giant leaps. They are built through small, deliberate steps, steps that may feel uncertain, but are part of the journey towards something greater. So, as we conclude today's conversation, I want to ask you, what feels impossible in your life? What have you been holding off on, telling yourself it's beyond your reach? Is it a goal at work, a personal dream, or a new challenge you've been avoiding because of fear or self-doubt? Whatever it is, I challenge you to take one small step toward it. Embrace the uncertainty. Take that first action, no matter how small it seems. With each step, you'll discover that what once felt impossible begins to feel a little more possible. Remember, the only limits that truly exist are the ones we set for ourselves. The power to change, to grow, and to achieve lives within you. Let go of the idea of impossible and step into a world full of endless possibilities. Thank you for joining me on today's journey. If this conversation resonated with you, share it with someone who might need a reminder that they too can break free from the limits they've set. And always remember, your future is limitless if you choose to believe.